Poetic peeps and gentle persons and betweeners and nonconformers, genders all and genders equal. Welcome to Eat the Storms, the poetry podcast. My name is Damien B. Donnelly. I'm your host and producer, and this is episode 12, season 9, the penultimate episode of this season. And what a penultimate episode we have. Today we are globe-trotting without the need for a single boat, a train or an aeroplane. All you need is the comfort of your own armchair. And so in honour of William Hurt today, we are armchair tourists on platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Podbean, Player FM, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Podcast Addicts, iTunes, Amazon Music and even YouTube. Now, it's time for you to settle down as we have 6 remarkable voices sharing their words today. So instead of me wasting time with the chit-chat, let's get straight on with the show. My name is Damien B. Donnelly. This is Eat the Storms, a poetry podcast. A happy new year to you all, and I hope you all enjoy the show. And my first guest on the podcast today began writing and sharing poetry in 2020, and by 2024 he was already the runner-up for the Patrick Kavanagh Poetry Award, as well as being shortlisted for the Poetry Prize at the Belfast Book Festival. His poems have appeared in Schieffer's, Stand, Arc and Causeway. He's also a stage and screen actor currently writing for Netflix and also developing his own feature-length film work. His short stories have been read by Stephen Ray and Katrina Balfe, and his first audio drama, Hello, I Appear to Have Killed Your Husband, is available on BBC Sounds and iPlayer. Based in London, I'm delighted to welcome to Eat the Storms for the first time, Eugene O'Hare.
Photograph. I don't remember taking this. You were watching sunset from the slope, one of your feet raised on the grass, a half thought of flight perhaps, a desire to be scooped up by the brawn of the wind from the fallen nest of your sick body. That was when we thought walks would do you good, before bed became the last landscape in which you fed. Looking through photos of those 10 weeks, I see now that you were certain to achieve flight. Not so sudden as the skylark's vertical blast, but beginning as a slow vanishing, casting off those things that once defined you, your sharp dart of thought, then your laughter, which once filled your garden, before folding into stillness like a summer chair, packed away for the cold, hard months. Then went your love of simple things, water, bread. That final night, we opened your ceiling skylight as the moon performed her guide for travelling solo. By morning, a scatter of brown feathers on the carpet where you shook your wings abreast, drew breath, and fast, like a skylark's vertical blast, flew. Linda. I am the ocean no one has visited for years. My belly is blue water. My thoughts, green bottles, searching for light to fill. In single sounds I distill my sad scriptures. At night I make a music from silver chains of tears which I fling upon the rock and listen back, waiting to be moved. I am the saddest ocean there is. My corals are empty castles, ships. I am haunted by fish. There is a dream I have of lying on my back, forgetting to surge and storm my head into the stone face. Dream too of being swallowed up by a god or monster, warmed by her humming throat, my blue belly a belt about her heart. Once all the humans have gone, with their leather shoes soft with worry, the moon will break and pour empty, its white blood mixing of me a slow clay, smothering the earth to a cold ball, suspended in space, loneliest ocean of all. Our last holiday. Obviously there were long days of sun and a sea that sung herself into darkness. And obviously there was drink and swimming and sex at unusual times and nothing much else to do. Obviously there was me and there was you, and the unutterable thing we both knew, that this would be our last holiday, the final whoop-de-doo. Separately we were simple, together a riddle of too few clues. And yet here you still are, spread out on pages, flaming up in thought, holding me under the water of my dreams, where we swam on our last holiday. Lou Reed. A house sparrow ministers me from a dream of dying. I used to get so bored of its clanking phrases, always going on about owning its own home, building it safe enough for a generation. But it is this tight, repeating song today that makes me grateful to watch the plum darken in the bowl, and to see the cat crouching on my neighbour's roof, concealing her imaginings from the high place, and to hear the pipe swallowing under the sink into a network of city streets. I change my Lou Reed t-shirt, wet with night sweats. I write you a letter and consider bringing it to the post box. I'm sorry for everything. Do you want to love me again? I know I'm hard to love. But I stay home a lot now and eat oranges while thinking about their lives on the tree. Lately, in the evening pipe of fog, I walk the long road and feel so tired I have to take the bus back. I keep thinking I only have one chance left, but I don't know how to use it. Do you want to love me again? We could spend the first week lying side by side, saying nothing, listening to the swallows in our throats, the heart's wing beats under our clothes, and the wren in the afternoon, the wren, the marvellous wren, which moves like fine sheets of steel, slicing up the avenue. Aunt Rita's sunbed. She kept it in the kitchen where the table used to be, charged the neighbours 50p for 5 minutes ago. Once I saw the fella from the housing executive in there with only protective goggles and his underpants on, his skin pink and red as a butcher's shop. When the wedding video man from Kildare Street came to use the sunbed, we thought he would break it. As he lay down on the lit plastic panel, it creaked like the floor in a horror film, and Rita blessed herself until the creaking stopped. She told him not to move nor make a sound if he expected to go brown. I watched between the gap as the UV light glowed his body up to a breathing silver balloon. Sometimes I get these aching pangs to be back there among tea bags and beer and horse racing in the afternoon. The smell of bronzing lotion and Rita's menthol cigarettes, the smoky polo fug. And yes, back among the knowing of nothing of the world, to smallness, to emptiness, politically notionless, blissfully deafened by the argument between Rita and the woman from across the road who couldn't work up a tan, so she claimed the bulbs were duds. Everything is terrifying these days. Somebody must know a way back.
And from London in the United Kingdom, we are leaping over to Wisconsin in the United States for a writer whose work has appeared or is forthcoming in places like Stanza Canon, Whimsical Publications, Inspired, Open Skies Quarterly Edition 1 and 3, Anxious Times Magazine and Core Dance Poems Volume 3. Normally writing and performing songs in Wisconsin with her husband, today she is flying solo with her poetry. Again, for the first time on Eat the Storms, this is Colleen Machut.
I almost wept for you, upon hearing of your love gone wrong, listening with my essence as you wallowed in your song. Then guardian hesitation offered realization. Your claim to eye-framed condensation proved a liquid lie. The droplet from your desert eye, undeniably well-timed. I've spoken enough limelight lines to know an eye-cry feigned. You may have others trained in the worship of your name, keeping lies opaque as a blasphemous mistake takes shape. Your prize in an inherent game, you'd play the same despite my name. But I, the wicked waif, insist that kisses wait, employing your endurance as I interrogate. You deny deceit, and I reject conceit, enforcing with abruptness that your scars are obsolete. In early mornings, softly lit, you sift from the catacombs of my consciousness. My preoccupied eyes empathize with past iterations of you and I. High on flutter flirtation and caught in our own gravitation, we never found satiation in choreographed faces. We echoed walls with proper greetings, amiably deceiving, stressing the seams of alternative meanings. If only the whimsical had conquered the physical. If only the genuine had outweighed the trivial. Now I blush wince at the thought of the self I forgot in a veil of manic days converted to rage by a guilty flame you never felt. Alone in my inferno self. I filter through it yet, in early mornings, softly lit, as you sift from the catacombs of my consciousness. You are the rogue one, the brave, dismissing society's lines as colored-by-number nonsense meant to inhibit, define, and repress. You are the life breath, the breaker of rules, the train that souls hop to escape to faraway places free of the mundane. You are the one wise beyond the lines, uninhibited. You are the insightful one, who channels the universe and swirls the stars, who knows things beyond knowing and fills hearts with sparkles. The one who dives into piles of leaves on a magic night in the middle of the street. You are the one consumed by self-love, who puts himself before and holds himself above, who binds with lines and then betrays when whims change from day to day, whose desires take first place. Even time is a line untraced as you smile inside and watch them wait. Vagabond, prophet, narcissist, I have called you all of these. But you never listened long enough. to know what to call me. You may call me the asker of wise, the writer of rhymes, the lighter of fires, the one who is willing to cry every time, who filters the lines and, when wise, draws outside. A believer that true love comes with bonds but not chains, and the shore can be more than a soft landing place. That I can swirl my own stars, find my own sparkles, fill my own heart. That one should listen more than speak, and share love outward unconditionally. Regardless of you, this is what I believe. Regardless of you, this is me. The timbre of your voice, forgotten in my pocket, now swirls vertigo words that amplify the sky. Cosmic gusts of you ignite shards of buried lust, which glow on lacquered blackness in a universe of vastness. With Renaissance affection, I hurdle constellations and float across the sky as energy elation, ensnared in the conviction of your simple incantation. Where everywhere meets nowhere, I spin my dizzy dance and twirl, lover, freedom tempts my hand again.
Now, for my next guest, we're jumping from Wisconsin to Washington and then to Westport here in Ireland for an American writer living on the west coast of Ireland. His poems have appeared in various places, including the beautiful Skylight 47, the extraordinary Bangor Literary Journal, Freshwater Literary Journal and Mudlark. He is the author of After the Translation, a chapbook published by Brooding Heron Press. Again, joining us for the first time today on Eat the Storms, I'm delighted to hand you over to David Edelman.
My name is David Edelman. I'm a retired teacher from Bellingham, a town on the northwest coast of Washington State, near the Canadian border. I'm currently residing in Westport, Ireland, which sometimes reminds me of home, especially when it rains. I'd like to start with a few older poems that are in some way related to my experience with retinal disease. The first one treats of the distortions of visual impairment compounded by the development of an eye tic. It's called Adrift. A tic under my right eye, the one I see out of mostly, the one in which the world makes sense sometimes. What next? What small calamity of unbelief will plague me next, will ensoul the body in pain, will mark it with unseen scarring, the loops and twirls of immaculate distance warped, the ground giving way in continuous unevenness, the masts of the boats curving, straightened again, melted and unmelted, snapped to in the unfolding, the opening out, the flowering in time, in space curdled and wrinkled, all layered, all unexpected, all what next? The tic is seismic, it shudders the earth and sky, it shakes it anew, alight with bursts of blue and pink from the cherry tree by the bank. A small scene I would not deny myself, not today, whatever anyone may think of, an old man adrift with wonder. This next poem reminds me of Theodore Roethke's paradox that, in a dark time the eye begins to see. It is what we wait for. Midwinter thoughts of blindness without end, how to bring the world back. Among the fortunes the ancients valued most was friendship, the face of someone with whom we reflect not merely our abundant sorrows, but also joy, that life force of being we share with the blind dart of the bat, the soft swish of elk in snow, the clamber of raccoons across the bare winter laurel. It is what we wait for. In the dead air before dawn, the muted cloud light still hours away, and our bodies sweating out the worst thing we know about ourselves. I'm an avid hiker, and I thank my surgeons that hiking is something I can still do. Hiking back from Jade Lake. As we hiked back the flat track along the river, the sun falling behind the white peaks, the air quickly turning cool, we heard above the low rush of the foss a couple owls hooting across the forest. It was good to listen after the strain of seeing our way down the steep trail from Jade Lake. Listen and take in the cool smells rising from the damp forest floor. During that last mile of a 16-mile hike, we said little, satisfied with the day offering us such pleasures together. I'd like to end with a couple poems I've written since I've been in Ireland. I don't know if you've ever woken up in the morning feeling that, despite what's happening in the world, everything might be okay. That's what this poem is about. No particular reason. There was no particular reason for it. It wasn't that the walkways were icy, the water glassy, the reek dusted white. It wasn't the rare blue and a nearly clear sky, the heron posing on the dock, an oyster catcher come ashore. It wasn't the quiet of muted traffic, the caw of a rook from across the channel, a swimmer wilding it in Clew Bay. There was no trick to it. The day carried on with the first light breaking over the hills. The Connaught truck pulled up. A neighbor walked her dachshund. They were getting on with it, the ordinary tasks that tell us we're intact, we're breathing, the worst hasn't hit, and despite the long, dark, and fitful sleep, may not. Finally, I'd like to think that around us every day there is much about the world that is redeeming. Birdsong. This morning I stopped for the call of a song thrush at the edge of the woods behind the guardhouse to the estate. It was loud and insistent, and over its bright warbles and whistles I heard the higher pitch of a robin come in from the background, and even higher, a wren fading in and out. Not one of them could I see, but these woods, now stripped almost bare, held them, as even now I hold them in my memory. If I'd stayed inside, on my computer, I would have missed how they were joined by a dunnock and tree creeper, greenfinch and chiffchaff, blackbird and jackdaw, all on a gray December day, the rain ticking and the wind picking up. How could this be? How could something this remarkable be so blessedly ordinary, so uneventful and miraculous?
And now on this truly international episode of Eat the Storms, which arrives to you listeners with no requirements for a single passport or visa, we are now heading to Australia to hear from the author of the debut collection, The Infant Vine, which was published last year by the University of Western Australia Publishing. This poet has had her work appear in places like Mead, Island, Rabbit, Westerly, Cordite Poetry Review, Anthropocene and Plumwood Mountain Journal. She is the winner of the Vinnie Holgren Environmental Poetry Prize and is currently a PhD candidate in creative writing in Monash University. For the first time on Eat the Storms, but like all my other guests, I hope not the last, this is Isabella G. Mead.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Damien. It's an honour to be able to share some of my poems with you and your listeners. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that these poems are written on unceded Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country, which is where I also live. The first poem I'd like to read is called Full at Perigee. In making the image, the once lusty moon is cancelled out by twice borrowed light. Chip from a nicked saucer, splintered tooth in my palm. Porcelain when I was going for vaster rock, touched by ice, blue as it floats like a petrified jelly in the pelagic sky. Or lilac at the very least, stained by a soft winter sunset. I text my mother, check out the moon. By the time she replies, a crowd of clouds have eaten it like a pre-show snack. O wafer, O mouth of ours. When I see the moon, I reach for my phone, extract it from my bag like a decorative lorgnette. The results of my enthusiasm, cruelly lit satellites, discoloured sclera, flatten under scrutiny like a celebrity crush. To my daughter, I say, look up. Taking her hand in mine, I point to a patch of high indigo. See the moon next to that socket-shaped cloud? Shaking me off, she skips ahead in pink and aqua sneakers. O cutout circle, O left thumb cuticle. This evening the moon is vast, a supermoon according to the news. I snap 3 times. The sudden unease when a large object vanishes. Perhaps that last photo will be okay. No, they are all terrible, the last one especially. My girl, I know it is folly. I am filling distant servers with clippings of light, impressions of fullness. And for what? Not memory, but a means to keep that moon's cool, aseptic gaze on me. A stone I can hold when records break and the dry grass dries. O autofocus, O face of thine. The next poem I'd like to read is called Two Cities. The city is an affluence of birds feathered in fair weather. In scented streets we observe the heavy lifting of bees, insects inculcating the earth. Garden sunskinks vanish when we fall into step. A ready reckoner for human heat, each morning I tongue creamy plastic, open a weather app for clues. The sky holds no mystery, a swatch of resolute blue. Impossible not to see flowers in all things. Pavement gum, electric toothbrush head, thumbprints in the hand's tacky vase. On my desk, day-old coffee blooms fawn roses. I spill the frosty petals before I take a test, marvel at the body's quick wit. Now light is trickling out as if there is a leak in the sky. Stranded in a grainy boat, nausea hands me my own head to heave, ho. In tap water I taste the harbour, its silky steel, sleek seals. I crave bitterest lemon, tart yellow sodas, salt on toast to appease the serious crumb of you. At night I dream of carbohydrates, flat streets, melaleuca exfoliating on nature strips ruled by noisy miners. The road unspooling like a black daisy as you return home by the sun-bitten highway, every exit to a service station a pregnant pause. Soon the view will be so far behind us we'll forget there ever was a bridge, stamping its concrete into blue, restless water. The last poem I'd like to read is called The Green Wedge. I am walking the river's slow edge with my daughter tucked, frog-legged, in a sun-faded carrier. Despite appearances, she is mammal to a T. She snuffles, nuzzles my chest like a truffle dog, the loamy earth. On the bank I position her latch with my framer's hands. She drinks deeply, a memory restores, oars muscling through water, the stroke of a welcome swallow's wing mid-flight. Birds instruct in lapsed song, mine and here and yours. My daughter pulls off, grabs my arm in her soft fist. Breath reverses in an undergrowth teeming with planet-heavy ants. There is so much we don't see. Frogs tenanting yellow marsh flowers, a glimmer of eggs cradled in the slick tympanum of pondweed. The sun softens in brown water. Reeds beget reeds. Lifting my daughter to face the river, its surface corrugated with milfoil, her springform legs kick against the heel of my heart. What will remain? Frogs or birds? The unsteady march of ants? Let it be more than loose stones bargaining at the mouth, the hatching of a lone tadpole like a clammy jolt of love. Thank you so much again.
And now for my penultimate guest on the show today. We are coming over to Ireland almost to join me in Dublin, as my next guest was born in Dublin, but he currently resides in County Laois here in Ireland with his wife and 3 children. He was the winner of the Curt New Writing Prize in 2019, and last year his first collection, a book of haibun called 4 Season Farm, Gardener by Day, was published. And today you're going to hear some of those haibuns from that collection. All the way from County Laois, I'm delighted to welcome again for the first time to Eat the Storms, Jeremy Haworth.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Haworth. I'm originally from the coastal town of Bray, County Wicklow, but now residing in the heart of Ireland in County Laois. I'm going to read a selection of my work. I'm going to begin with some haiku. Haiku, unrhymed, one-breath poems, a kind of time-stopping device, a precise description that opens our mind to the world under our noses, a record of a glowing moment in 17 syllables or less. That's a simple definition of haiku. I'm going to read 4. Each one I'll repeat twice. Sea on the wind, the resort hotel, slowly fading. Sea on the wind, the resort hotel, slowly fading. Loo roll binoculars. The little boy points the way to a dragon. Loo roll binoculars. The little boy points the way to a dragon. Far away breakers. A bleached dolphin's spine ladders the sand. Far away breakers, a bleached dolphin's spine ladders the sand. Red sundown. A wind-raggled bush sprouts 50 sparrows. Red sundown. A wind-raggled bush sprouts 50 sparrows. And maybe one more haiku, a fifth haiku. Out of city rain, we step into the smell of books. Out of city rain, we step into the smell of books. Now I'm going to read a brief part of my first collection published last year, a selection of haibun, which is a form that combines haiku with prose. The name of the book is Four Season Farm, and it charts one man's struggle to learn the ancient art of tending the land. Written as a series of haibun, the book alternates prose and haiku to tell the story of a single calendar year on a busy organic farm. Diary entries map the slow turning of the seasons, every page resonant with the sights, sounds and smells of nature in full spate. That's the blurb on the back, and I'm going to dive into the cold of January. January 19th. The sleeping farm. I pace the hard, frost-eaten earth. Nothing stirs in the silvered hedgerows. Wood smoke hangs in the air. The ceiling of the glass house is veined with ice. I imagine the dreaming hedgehog curled in a bed of leaves, wrens hugging in a nook of bark, the badgers dozing in their set. Time to rest. I unlatch the door and enter butterlight, the warm fug in the farmhouse kitchen. A burst of applause, rising over the stubble, the pigeon flock. That's from my first collection, Four Season Farm, 90 haibun. And I'm going to read another brief one now from late summer. August 3rd. The Milky Way slings a glow of pollen across the dark. I pause to gaze across the span of a million years. Midnight silence, weaving star to star, pipistrelle wings. And maybe one more. We'll leap back to February. February 1st. Imbolc, the beginning of spring. St. Bridget's Day. Traditionally, the season of the wolf, when farmers crouched from the lurking terror in the woods. Fire to ward away the fleet-footed beast of fur and teeth. The last wolf in Ireland was killed not far from here, on the edge of a stream in the foothills of Mount Leinster, just outside Carlow. When the shot rang out, The forests trembled for the loss. They diminish and tremble still. The bare pine snags the shadow of a leaping wolf. And just to close, just one long form poem. This one titled Elsewhere. Storm-coked waters, rain-stitched earth, wind cold as the swipe of a feathered hook, peeling the iron of trawlers junked in a bath of silt. One a hoop of ribs, another a cringe of rust. Staling in the cramp of metal scrap, engines, diesel fumes, dead fish, nettles and tangled nets. A fisherman's shack. The kitchen slump of tabloids, takeaways and empty bottles, where the postcard on a cupboard door telegraphs elsewhere on an A6 palimpsest of bronze skin, speedos, sand and clear water. Playa de Palma, sunny Majorca. Wish you were here.
And for my final guest today in the podcast, we have our first returning guest of this episode, who was born in Germany and has roots in Canada and the United Kingdom. So again, we are truly international today. She joined us a few years ago to read from The Horse and the Girl, which was published by Sea Crow Press, which is now being reprinted thanks to the Crossing Places series, in advance of her new collection, Mother, Maiden, Crone, which will arrive in March of this year. And today you're going to hear from both. She is a publisher and an editor, the founder of Write On Magazine, Write On Audio Podcast and Write On Extra Ezine. I am thrilled to welcome back to Eat the Storms my final guest today, Madeleine F. White.
Hi there, my name is Madeleine F. White and I'm delighted to be joining you and the wonderful Damien in January, the last month of the Eat the Storms season and of course the first month of 2025. I did come to you via the Eat the Storms airwaves a couple of years ago when The Horse and the Girl was first launched, but now with a relaunch as part of the Crossing Places series and then a new collection, Maiden, Mother, Crone, out in March, I was keen to visit again. Thank you so much for having me, Damien. Poetry is often about finding one's voice. For me, it's certainly not an immediate journey. It comes in stages, and to me, that's what the Crossing Places series represents. The Horse and the Girl was about discovering my voice, and in conversations based on the relationship I have with my opinionated old mare Lucy. On our journeys through the Kent countryside, she helped me ask some big questions and discover the start, at least, of some of the answers. My first poem is taken from The Horse and the Girl. It's called Can't See for Looking. I can't see, said the girl, there's too much to do, as she rode on the horse one day. She bent down to pat the broad dappled back and put her phone away. Said the horse loud and clear, look through my ears, that will restrict your view. You'll see what matters, the sky and the path, as they stretch out in front of you. He twisted his neck to reach the green grass and crunched on the bit in content, then swivelled his eyes to make quite sure that she understood what he meant. But don't look behind or fear the bends out in front, as you might forget where we're going. Ah, I see, said the girl as she patted the horse. Sometimes it's better not knowing. Now, the next poem is the title poem of Maiden, Mother, Crone, my new collection. As part of the series, I actually consider A Horse and the Girl about discovering my voice, but Maiden Mother Crone is about unfolding. It's a memoir, and it's created by accessing that stillness I first discovered on horseback. It's hard, and it's unflinching, and it portrays trauma, motherhood, addiction, recovery, but ultimately hope. I hope you enjoy this first title poem. Maiden Mother Crone, Maiden Mother Crone, moon waxing and waning, I'm never alone. The faster I go, the faster it follows. I turn to face my tomorrows. I am, pain tells me I am. Knowledge of how my body fits where it shouldn't. Already some bits floating in the bath where flesh flashes. A gurgling laugh, thumb in mouth, plugged. I am. Child's plumped flesh, pleasant, present, thumb in mouth, plugged. Silver fish jumping to winged-hoped imaginings, moving beyond the drowning. Floating silence caught in a radiator's hum. Gurgled murmurings cut through waterlogged memories. Desire thrums. Another place, stuffing a face, sick making, all eating sweet. Flesh waxing, spirit waning, till thumb unplugged the maiden rises, and despite surfeit of flesh, as a fleet-footed deer she evades the spears of unmaking. The world turns. Surprise! Maiden Mother Crone, Maiden Mother Crone, moon waxing and waning, I'm never alone. The faster I go, the faster it follows. I turn to face my tomorrows. I am. Pain tells me I am. She-wolf now, I rest a while, but not long. Plastering my red-painted lupine smile across moon-soaked streets, I hope the disguise will allow me to pad past silently. But memories shriek until I roar, claim my place as mother, not meat. My cubs will eat. I demand the earth swallows the shadows that follow. I will not lie on my back for a tickle. I am become bitch, but not for long. Canine breath exhaling breathes life into the serpent I'd curled round my soul to keep their world whole. A mother's fangs break the skin upwards and in. Winding, binding, reminding, finding. I am. Consuming, colluding, creating. I can. Breathing fire where there was none, I'm released from the safe dark. Pain ceases. I come. Maiden Mother Crone, Maiden Mother Crone, moon waxing and waning, I'm never alone. The faster I go, the faster it follows. I turn to face my tomorrows. I am. Anger has consumed, an inferno of flame banishes pain. Be still, my daughter. No longer lamb to the slaughter, mutton now, but mutton is tough. It must be boiled enough to render it digestible. I remain indigestible, preferring flame to water. The same words, the same promises. Serpent-encased self dragoning into a world unmade and remade, breaking the consistency of constancy with the power of stillness. Entropy's womb. My womb has shriveled as I have grown. Blood's cool dripping from incisors bleached by time, beckoning me from charnel houses and ossuaries, paths strewn by bones from those like me. Flesh fails, spirit quails, and yet I walk. Beware, these grey hairs you see are snakes. They will turn you to stone. I am crone. Maiden Mother Crone, Maiden Mother Crone, moon waxing and waning, I am called home. The spiritual feminine is an important part of Maiden Mother Crone, and I look at the Trinity through the eyes of Mother Goddess, but as well through the loop of Christian faith also. I wish I had time to read you Spell Song, but I don't. But I will say that a line is taken from Shane MacGowan's obituary in that, which has actually inspired quite a bit of the concept of the collection as a whole. I would like to finish, though, with a poem called Knowing. So much of Maiden Mother Crone is about claiming who I am and trying to get others to do the same. So in this, with a touch of humour, I'm reappropriating the word crone, not as a pejorative, but as a celebration of the years that have passed and the knowledge that I have gained. I claim my place in this world, and this is a celebration of that. Life is full of comings and goings, my boobs for one. But like any self-respecting crone, I still do glam. I have makeup that glides over wrinkles and special pants hiding a stomach that crinkles and droops at the same time. It's helpful to me that my eyes aren't as good, which means appearance is guided by mood. From pyjama-clad cosy to 40-plus glamorous, there is strength in my fuck the world fabulous. In any case, I'm quite pleased with my face. When I look in the mirror, I'm still a disgrace. Each drop of story in me is a mote in someone's eye. As a pushing past perfectionist, insurgent insurrectionist, I know my worth and will go to the ends of the earth to call my soul my own. Vibrant, courageous and beautiful, we crones can be dutiful, but we're dangerous too. Fearless, in the face of happenstance, we dance. I do hope my words have inspired you on this cold January day. And I also hope that you might consider, therefore, submitting some of your work. An anthology, which is all about connecting us and our ideas, is coming out, published by Sea Crow Press in 2026. If you would like to contribute, please do go to seacrowpress.com/Crossing Places series. Can't wait to see some of your work. Thank you so much for having me, Damien. And here's to a wonderful 2025.
And now, just before we leave you, as always, I'm going to read one of my own poems. And this time I've decided to read a poem which appeared in the 2023 edition of Howl, New Irish Writing. I was overjoyed to be in their second issue, and for Christmas this year, I treated myself to a copy of their latest edition. The poem I'm going to read ended up in my second full collection, Back From Away, which was published by Tourist Press. And if you fancy hearing me read more poems from this collection and you're here in Dublin, then why not join myself and my fellow Tourist Press poets, Etna Lannan and Ross Hathaway, who'll be reading at Books Upstairs on the 19th of January at 2 p.m. And if you want to join us, you can head on over to booksupstairs.com to book your free place. Now, if you're stateside and you fancy hearing me read more from Back From Away, you can also join me at 3 p.m. PST or 11 p.m. GMT at the North Bay Poetics, as I will be their featured guest this month, thanks to the gloriously shiny luminary light that is Karen Pierce Gonzalez. Now, this is Bog Body. Slumped over IKEA desk. Dusk delayed since time slipped back and morning darkened. Having just returned from garden, tying light ropes around hollow trees to serenade starlight, trying to avoid the knot of noose. I open a book to catch Fernando Pessoa bleeding over the book of Cesario Verde. I sing that same sorrow, reduced to countryman, return to the mud of the country and the man so far from the cities where he burnt his skin on freedom. I write of other houses, for fear I'll forget where I laid. Sketch shadows already disappearing from streets I once identified by scent, where once I discovered what it was like to find your way out of being lost. One writes and no one reads till he dies. The other, leaning, reading, bleeding. We are only as devious as our smiles are wide, feeling pressed between the beauty of a flower indoors and the snap of a stem from its root. Bound between page and peat, I walk these fields, bleeding for the smell of a city. Poetic peeps and gentle persons, in-betweeners and nonconformers, genders all and genders equal. We've reached the end of another episode of Eat the Storms, the poetry podcast. My name is Damien B. Donnelly. I've been your host and producer, and I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in today, tomorrow, yesterday, next year, last year, this evening, or this morning. Whether that's on platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Podbean, Player FM, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Podcast Addicts, iTunes, Amazon Music, or even YouTube, and possibly a few places that I've forgotten. Now, a huge thank you to all of my wonderful guests on the show today who have been Madeleine F. White, Isabella G. Mead, David Edelman, Colleen Machut, James Haworth, and Eugene O'Hare. And as always, you can head on over to our website, eatthestorms.com, click on the Listen to the Podcast section, and there you'll find a blog post for every episode. This was episode 12, season 9, and in that blog post you'll find bios, photos, and social media handles so you can find, follow, and be enormous fans of every one of my glorious guests. And while you're there, you can even pick up a copy of The Storms, our own printed journal of poetry, prose and visual arts, which launched its 4th issue last year, a celebration of the city of Dublin with 93 star contributors. And that's it from me. We are back with you again next week with the final episode of Season 9. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Season 10 will be back again in the summer, but we will have some special episodes to ensure we all make it through the in-between months. And as this is the first episode of 2025, I wish you all a better, a brighter and a lighter new year. And of course, I wish that you all continue to stay bloody poetic.